Welcome to Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I am Pastor Mark Baze, and this show is dedicated to matters of theology. It's dedicated to addressing the current state of politics, culture, society, and what shape it is in. As you see, the title of the show is The West is Falling, and I couldn't help but continually read it as The West is Failing. We're going to talk about, obviously, the events that transpired at the Olympics, and then we will talk about some other interesting matters related to it, but focusing more specifically not so much on secular society and culture, but Christian mentality and matters of the faith, Bible believers, the mentality that they have. And I do not think that it is the most beneficial. I don't think that it is a recipe for success. How about that? But I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you had a good, restful weekend. Hopefully you got to sit in on some good Bible study. Eventually, we're going to get to where we can live stream our services at the church to where you don't have to wait for me to upload these things. But the good news is I do have some things updated for you. So if you do go over to our YouTube channel, Worshipify, I'm trying to get that taken care of. Worshipify is kind of a little bit tricky with me right now. I've been talking to Nathan. We're working on getting all that fixed. But if you go over to YouTube, you will see that we have a few uploads for you, and that is right here. Our misapplied series, the 10 Commandments. So be sure to check that one out if you have not gotten the opportunity to watch that yet. And then also our Last Day series, which is our Sunday School series, the doctrinal debate, looking at the different views of the end times. We introduced all the different, isms, post-millennialism, pre-tribulationalism, amillennialism. We address it all. Obviously, I'm a pre-tribulational, premillennialist. But we also have a new sermon for you that will be uploaded for you this week, and we're going to have another series for the Sunday School that will be uploaded for you as well. So plenty of material for you to watch, whether it's our daily show, whether it's our Sunday morning, our Sunday school, and then we'll be getting back to Wednesday night soon. This is going to be our last week of Vacation Bible School, which has kind of put a little bit of a hamper in on my Wednesday night Bible study, but we'll get back to it, get back into the groove. But thank you all so much for taking the time to hop on to join us, supporting us in our ministry here. And my mom just said, Mark, I just listened to your 10 Commandments sermon. It was really good. Thank you, Mom. I appreciate it. My biggest fan. And thank you, Nancy. She got to watch the most recent Last Days series. And that's what yesterday was. She said it's good information yesterday on all the different beliefs. And that was the point of that session. It's not that I'm refuting all of them. I can't do it in just a brief 45 minute session. It's just getting you introduced to the basic premise of all the different views. And so I'm excited. That series may be one of my longer ones. We may actually go, upwards of 15 to 20 sessions, just depending on all the different content, if I think I can wrap things up. But there's a lot to it, and I want to make sure that series is comprehensive and is very thorough in all the different matters of the last days and the end times, which is such a neglected topic. There's a lot of neglected topics in our churches, and hopefully this ministry, as well as others, fellow defenders of the faith, those that stand for good contextual Bible study, that we can buck that trend, that we can eventually be a force to be reckoned with the current state of affairs, that people know about this ministry, and that it is one which addresses topics within the Bible that a lot of preachers are not comfortable with touching, that we are boldly going where few preachers have gone before. And therefore, I'm excited for what our ministry has in store in the years to come. I'm already seeing so many exciting things at our church that I'll tell you more about as things go on. But it's been really fun, really exciting to see. Okay, now let's talk about the Olympics. Obviously, that's the big thing that everybody's been talking about. I've seen it all over Facebook. I've seen it all over YouTube, and as well as other people. Obviously, people were talking about it at church on Sunday, so let me give you my take on it. So obviously, you have probably already seen it. You know what happened. I don't know if I have a full picture of the whole thing, but the scene of the Olympics was essentially they had their big ceremony that they did. It was kind of this it was a big production, and they had a depiction of all sorts of strange imagery, men dressed in women's clothes, drag, very, very pagan-esque. You had a guy dressed in all blue, weird dances, strange music, and it pans out, and you get essentially which is really undeniable. It is an uncanny similarity to the famous Da Vinci Last Supper. Let me see if I can get a picture pulled up for you. Let's see here. Let's see. The picture, surprisingly, which is very famous, is almost kind of hard to come by to a degree. Here it is. So here is let me see if I can get that pulled up for you. Trying to get it clear in images for you. So here is a side-by-side comparison. I don't know what website I'm on here, but they're the one that had a good comparison. So you can see, it's kind of blurry, but a lot of these are men dressed in very weird clothing. Just very, very strange. I mean, you've got so many similarities here. You truly do. You've got, you obviously, first and foremost, you have this lady front and center and kind of has that halo around her, which you'll often see depicted in some of the Catholic paintings. Then you've got, I think the biggest one, I think this is supposed to be Matthew in Da Vinci's painting, but you've got Matthew over here, right, looking this way, and then you've got this guy just kind of conveniently placed over here. It's very, very uncanny, right? I think that clearly this is something that they would have been practicing. This would all have been carefully choreographed. There is no way that this was by accident. Now, a lot of people are trying to gaslight you and tell you that it's not by accident. They're saying, no, this is a depiction of some other Greek festival to such and such pagan god or goddess, and they're trying to make that spiel. What's funny to me is I've seen some people, like a lot of some of the more leftist, like educators, like teachers, they've come out and done their posts and saying, oh, y'all are just ignorant. This is not a depiction of the Last Supper. This is a depiction of a Greek festival or feast, what have you, which I'm just saying, I'm going to tell you right now, these teachers didn't know anything about the Greek festival. They just saw it on the internet and reposted it, and now they're trying to make themselves out to be intellectuals, and all of you Christians are a bunch of ignoramuses. That is not what's going on. First of all, I saw some of the paintings that were depicting the pagan festival, not tied to the Greek depictions or Greek paintings. And furthermore, the Greek paintings actually come after the Last Supper. So some of the Greek painting depictions that they're saying, oh no, it's a feast. It's not a parody of the Last Supper. The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci was like 1495, and the Greek painting depictions were like in the 1600s. Clearly, it's a parody of the Last Supper. Every single person sees it. They are telling you, do not believe your lying eyes. And all of these so-called historical experts, whether they're educators or what have you, they are just playing the woke gaslighting game, right? There's something going on, and you point it out, and they say, no, that's not what it is. And therefore, I started to say it's kind of almost like our presidential candidate for the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris, who was hired specifically because she was a woman of color. And then when you point that out, they tell you how terrible and racist that is. And therefore, it is very obviously, very clearly a parody of the Last Supper. Now, I will say this, though. A lot of people I noticed were pointing out the fact that this is terrible, that they did a parody of the Last Supper. I agree, but I wish that we took the same amount of issue when it came to just the overall depravity of the whole thing. We are making a big deal about the parody of the Last Supper, but how many people are up in arms regarding the whole men dressed as women dancing around very provocatively? Isn't that a problem? And hasn't that been going on for some time now? The truth is, you have this Last Supper parody going on, which obviously is a slap in the face to Christians, and they're making fun of you and acting like, ha ha ha, we didn't mean it. Yeah, sure, whatever. But I'll remind you that in the very first chapter of the Bible, it said male and female created he them. And therefore, when you see any kind of social, public, national, international event like the Olympics, if they are promoting men in drag, transhumanism, transgender ideology, they're already slapping you in the face. You understand that, right? I think that a lot of Christians don't realize that. An attack on man, the idea of man, and the idea of woman, and those two being the way that God made us, anytime you say a public display that defies that makes a mockery of it, they're already insulting you, okay? Christians, understand, all right? I'm using the term Christian very broadly. Even this can drift into not necessarily the most fundamental of Christianity. You could even expand to Judaism, or just people that simply have a Judeo-Christian worldview. You are being insulted, and you have been insulted for a very long time. Either you have grown numb to it, or you haven't realized it, but anytime they trot out a man and they're calling that man a woman, they are insulting you, all right? It is a joke at your expense. We all understand what marriage is as well. They've been insulting you and slapping you in the face for a long time on the matter of marriage. This is just the natural progression, okay? Now it's just so obvious that you actually realize what's going on in front of your eyes, okay? It was so clear that you couldn't deny it, all right? And in 5 more years, this is going to be subtle compared to things that you will see eventually, okay? This is only the first. Actually, it's not even the first. Just as I said, you've been insulted for a long time. This is just the next step. And it's going to continue to get more and more sacrilegious. It's going to continue to get more and more overtly blasphemous. Just continue, just wait, just watch, all right? All this has been going on for a long time. And I know that people are saying, well, it's France. That's where the Olympics are being hosted this year. And they're saying, well, it's France, of course, right? France is a much more secular country. You had the French Revolution, which was a terrible event that unfolded because it was a rejection of really Western ideology. That's when the nation of France fell to a more progressive, liberal ideology in many ways. I know there's a lot of history to that, but it's not the same kind of revolution that America had by far. And yet, I will say, this is still the West. France is still a nation that was founded by Western Christian ideology, even though we could go back to the Roman Empire and all of the major failings of the Holy Roman Empire and the Catholic Church and the Pope and all that. Very colored history. But this fact that we have on an international level, an international stage, the mockery, obviously, yes, the Last Supper, we can all look at it and tell that it was a parody and making fun of Christianity. But the fact that you had transgenderism, the transhumanism. This is all a mockery of the values of the West, and therefore the West is falling. Okay, the Western ideology, the Western type of democracy, of government, of society, this is all coming tumbling down, okay? And it is a fact that when France and Europe and these other countries opened the borders to allow all these people to move in, you lost your Western identity. And as Nancy just said, it is happening not just in Europe, but it's happening in America as well. Western values are in decline, okay? Maybe I should have said the West is failing, because that is also an equivalent. As the West falls, the West fails. And I will say that it is somewhat amazing to me, and I may say something here that kind of sounds somewhat crazy, but sometimes it is amazing to me how we will want to claim our moral superiority in some ways to a lot of other cultures, that us, the United States, that we are the superior to all these other different societies and cultures. And yet we've got men dressed as women and all these pagan icons and ideology. And if you recall, if you see that picture, there's actually at least one child. This is a child right here. This is a little girl in this picture. And there may have been other children up on stage, but just look at that strange pagan iconography imagery that's going on in this top picture. And Russia's over there looking at us, and there's a reason why they believe they're the good guys. And half the time I look at us, and not that I think that Russia is the embodiment of everything that a government should be, or that Vladimir Putin is somehow some great moral leader, but I look at Western culture, NATO, I have to say, what about us makes us the outright good guys? We have rejected the order of creation. We have redefined marriage. We have upended men and women. We have endorsed the murdering of children. We continually want to run away from the Christian values that founded our society. So we're automatically the good guys just because we haven't invaded a country in recent years? Then again, is even that true? Maybe we've been seen as aggressive in our expansion of NATO and other matters. So therefore, it really leaves us with an identity crisis. Are we truly the good guys on the world stage? Because that's an ally of ours. And the Olympics is, let's talk about the Olympics, for example. I have some things about the Olympics that I'm not a big fan of. First of all, let me just get off of the very deep matters of culture and society and theology. There's too many sports in the Olympics, okay? Way too many. Let me just look and see really quickly, okay? How many sports are in the Olympics? How many events are in the Summer Olympics? So there's 32 sports. 32 sports. There are 329 different medal events. Okay. So we have the alphabet in front of us right now. All right, so here's the alphabet in front of us right now, okay? Let's consider some of these sports for the Olympics. This is theolympics.com. Under A, archery. Archery is something that has been going around for a very, 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 very long time. I think it belongs in the Olympics. Artistic gymnastics. This is where I may make some people upset. If your daughters do gymnastics, that's great. I'm not saying that every aspect of gymnastics doesn't potentially belong in the Olympics, but I think that they have so many, because all these have a lot of different events in them. You have your judges. I feel like within sports, you should be able to measure it, right? Like archery, you can tell if you hit the mark. Or maybe in some other matters of gymnastics, like you can measure to a degree. But artistic gymnastics, to what degree? Artistic swimming, some of it's amazing to watch. I'm not saying that it's inherently bad. Let's see here. Under B, badminton. There have been sports that are created that are simply easier versions of other sports. And badminton's fun to play. Cornhole is fun to play. But just because it's fun to play does not mean it's a serious sport. It's amazing to me how we treat, for example, disc golf as if it's a real sport. Disc golf is an easier version of actual golf, okay? Why do we have these lesser sports in our Olympics? Baseball, softball. I love baseball and softball. And you got basketball. But I don't know if they do really have a place in the Olympics. And I know that's not a popular opinion right there. But I love baseball, okay? My mom's on here. She can tell you. I love baseball. I was obsessed with it when I was a young kid, to an unhealthy degree even. I don't know if the concept of baseball, though, is quite fitting for the Olympics. There are some team events I would say that could fit in the Olympics, but are we just going to make everything the Olympics? Like every single kind of competitive thing in the world? I feel like there's just way too many things that are going on. Let's see what else. Oh, breakdancing. Now breakdancing's in the Olympics. Can we at least all agree? Okay, maybe we could argue baseball, softball, basketball, that's okay. Beach volleyball, maybe. But breakdancing? Equestrian, I think that belongs there. I mean, I think that the Olympics should be something that have been sports throughout history, right? And requires some skill. Fencing, that's a good one, I think. I think fencing belongs there. Flag football? No, flag football doesn't belong in the Olympics. Maybe football, but that's soccer, right? But soccer's kind of an old game. You've been kicking stuff for a long time. Golf, it's a difficult sport. Once again, though, I'm trying to think about the tradition of the Olympics. Does golf really fit in there? I don't know. Handball does not belong in the Olympics. Okay, handball is soccer with your hands. That's for kids that weren't good enough to play actual soccer. Hockey, once again, I don't know. Judo, now I think that I could get behind judo. I think I could support it. All right, judo is a very technical martial art. Karate, yeah. Lacrosse, I don't know. And then you've got like marathon swimming, I think so. The pentathlon, yes, that is Olympic as it gets right there. Rhythmic gymnastics, not convinced. Rowing, yes, rowing belongs there. Sailing, that's an interesting one, but I don't know what kind of sailing that is. Is it some kind of like parasailing? Shooting? I think shooting, it belongs there. I think that's the thing about the Olympics is I think it's like practical events, like things that a human being will do and a skill. I think shooting has a place there. Maybe you could just say archery is where it belongs and you don't need to extend it to firearms, but I don't have a problem with shooting. I think it's a basic skill because a bow and arrow is nothing more than what firearms shooting used to be. Skateboarding is really cool. Don't think it belongs in the Olympics. Sport climbing, maybe I could see rock climbing to be something, but even then, it's not the traditional Olympic style of event. Squash, I don't even know what that is. Surfing, I don't think so. Swimming, yes. Obviously, swimming would be an Olympic event. Table tennis, ping pong's neat, but not an Olympic event. Taekwondo, you got another martial art. Tennis, maybe. It's a very difficult sport. Maybe. Trampoline, I don't know about that. Triathlon, obviously, yes. Volleyball, once again, it's kind of on the fringe. Like I said, I love baseball, softball is fun to watch, basketball, football, those are great. But are those really like an Olympic sport? Don't know. Water polo, once again, that's water polo seems extremely hard. I'm just not sure. Weightlifting, of course. Men have been lifting things for years. Wrestling, absolutely. That's very traditionally Olympic. So I go through all the list of the events there. That's my first complaint, and I know you probably didn't want me to go through all these events, but I will say I think that there's way too many sports, and that's one problem with the Olympics. Another thing about the Olympics is it does have that globalist, like, people of the world come together, hold hands, sing Kumbaya. Remember when, like, the North Koreans, like, I guess it was held in North Korea or something. No, it wasn't held in North Korea, but the North Korean team, like one of the girls' Olympic teams, like, were doing a chant, and everybody was like, oh my goodness, this is gonna bring the whole world together. The Olympics is like a very hippie event, right? Everybody's going to hold hands and pretend like we don't have all these major global issues that we're dealing with. Some may argue that it helps lower the temperature. I don't know about that. I think it's kind of silly that we pretend like we all get along. So the Olympics obviously have its history in pagan Greece, Olympia, Olympics, but so many words, the etymology of so many things, like we go to church on Sunday. All right, Sunday is not a Christian etymological word, but we brought it over, and now the word is the only thing that remains. Everything else about our view of Sunday in America is a more Christian type thing. That's changing all the more with, teams playing on Sunday and whatnot. Thor's Day, right? The idea of the pagan god Thor. But once again, it's just in word only. That's kind of what the Olympics is. So I think that in our Western culture, why should the Olympics, even though it has the etymological origins of Greece, why would we pretend like our culture is not Judeo-Christian values? But that's because it's not anymore. We've allowed it to be lost and give up. And so that's where we're at today as far as the Olympics are concerned. I want to see some of these comments. Okay, so when I got on the while I got on that tangent, Scott says, girl beach volleyball, we know why that's in the game. I think I heard they're making them wear pants this year. That was a big disappointment for some people. I haven't watched any of the Olympics. Ken says, yes, golf deserves its place. Yeah, I could give it to golf. Golf is a very old game, too. It's not originated from Greece. That's one of the reasons why I kind of question, like, where's the relevance there? Like, do we stay kind of faithful to, like, the origins of the events originally? But golf's been played a long time. They used to play, with rocks and hickory. Scott says, people who send their kids to private school will tell you lacrosse will become a national sport soon. Sure, yeah. Too many sports. There's way too many sports. Rick said further up in regard to the... Let me see where you said it, Rick. I had it and then I lost it. Rick said, and I'm going to take your word for it, Rick, the Olympic program itself called it a depiction of the Last Supper. So, according to Rick, they actually were outright saying that it was to depict the Last Supper. Oh, Nancy hasn't even been following it. Yeah, Nancy, sorry to ruin your day. But it was something I had to talk about. Couldn't ignore it. Hey, Davey's on. Davey, we haven't had you in a while. It's good to see you. Glad to have you back with us. Oh, and you have a question. Okay, I'll put that in the Theology Thursday docket. Would you and most people say the 613 commandments are put into 10 categories? Okay, I'm going to save that and put that into my docket for Theology Thursday. So thanks, Davey. Great to have you back. Appreciate you. Hope you've been doing well. And I think we have a new person on here. We have let's see here, Okami. I hope I'm saying your name right. Good morning, Okami. Have you joined us before? If you have joined us before, it's great to have you back. If you haven't joined us before, or at least you haven't commented before, feel free to let us know where you're from. We'd be happy to get to know a little bit more about you, and thankful that you have an interest in our ministry and what we're doing here. And so, it's great to meet you. All right, so let me talk about this matter of kind of how some of Christianity has responded to this event. Most of them have kind of responded, I would say a lot of them have responded like us, and I think the right way to respond, which is frustration, and pointing out the fact that we are Western civilization. We're built on Judeo-Christian values. People understand that, and the values that we stand for are being torn down, right? The other hand, however, we have Christianity saying that, what, are you surprised that the world is doing sinful things, that the lost people are engaging in these activities? Why are you shocked? Why are you surprised? The Bible said that people were going to hate you because of me and all of this. This is the Christian victim mentality, and they hide it under the disguise of, yeah, so what? You got to toughen up, right? What, are you so offended? You knew the Bible told you that people were going to offend you, that they were going to attack you for your faith. So they want to pretend like they're being the tough guys in the room when really they're saying, oh, we're victims. The Bible said we're going to be victims. The Catholic Church promotes a lot of this. I believe the bishops or the cardinals, not the bishops, but the cardinals wear red shoes for the blood of the martyrs. And the idea is that Christianity was built upon the martyrdom of early believers, right? They'll point to the persecution that Christians faced under Nero or other times within Rome, or maybe even some of the persecution by Jewish leaders. They'll point to all those things. And they will say that that is how Christianity was so predominant, that actually the more that Christianity was persecuted, the more it flourished. That is such a popular teaching. I actually think I want to question that. It's not something that I've studied a lot, or I've even done much of a deep dive into, but that's something that you and I have all been told for a very long time, that Christianity spread because of martyrdom. That people sacrificing themselves and the movement only grew stronger and stronger. I would kind of like to question that assumption. Now, by no means am I trying to downplay the sacrifice, the martyrdom of those that believed that Jesus was the Son of God and affirmed that and was killed for their beliefs and their convictions, Justin Martyr, right, and those that we think of in times past. And certainly we have examples of, for example, James or Stephen within the Bible itself being martyrs for the faith, for the belief of Jesus Christ being the promised Jewish Messiah. Obviously, Paul's ministry had not yet come at that point, but there were martyrs for believing that Jesus was the Jewish Messiah. Paul himself persecuted those that believed that Jesus was the Son of God, the Son of David, the Messiah. But we have so much church tradition that we got not from the Word of God or other resources. The only resource that really tells the tale, or at least their version of the tale, is the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church tells us the blood of martyrs is what built the movement of Christianity. And what we have done is we have taken that mentality and we believe that for us today, that is how we are to spread Christianity. We need to be victims. We need to be martyrs. So the more that the world hates us, the better. That's how it's supposed to be. Now, we do have some Bible verses that... Whoops, I apologize. Give me just a moment. I keep my phone down there, and so I heard it going off, and I had to silence it. But we do have a passage of Scripture. We have a couple passages of Scripture, so let me try to be compassionate or reasonable. But when it comes to this victim Christian mentality, we have Matthew 16:24, a very famous verse. Then said Jesus unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. This verse has been applied to us today. The idea that if you are going to be a true follower of Christ, you are going to be the victim you're going to be a victim of persecution. And so why are you all shocked and surprised? Oh yeah, they mock the Last Supper. They're rejecting Christian values. They're promoting all this pagan idolatry, you name it. Why are you surprised? You don't be surprised when the world hates you. Jesus told us that. This is the source, or one of the symptoms, I should say, not a source, but the symptom of not understanding what Jesus was talking about when he was speaking to the Jewish people. When I first started pastoring, I had just turned 25, and I'm about to turn 29, so I'm coming up on my fourth year of being a pastor in ministry. And my first series I ever did is I taught through the Gospel of Matthew, and it took me 2.5 years. I could have probably sped it up in some areas, but 2.5 years of teaching through the Gospel of Matthew. I realized as I was studying through Matthew, the vast majority, and I'll stand by that, the vast majority of teachings that Jesus Christ gave in the Gospel of Matthew was concerning the Jewish people living in the tribulation. The Jewish people living in the tribulation. That comes probably as a shocker to a lot of people. But Jesus was preparing them to receive the kingdom. Before the kingdom would come, you had to have the tribulation take place. Therefore, when you see these passages, take up his cross and follow after me, he that shall save his life shall lose it, he that will lose his life shall find it. These are all instruction, the Sermon on the Mount, you name it, is preparing the nation of Israel for the tribulation. It is instruction for them to live through the last days. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. If you are worried about your food or the clothes on your back, you are going to be much more likely to take that mark. And taking the mark, you are going to be pledging your allegiance to the Antichrist, and you will not get into the kingdom. But if you're seeking the kingdom, God will provide for you. The passages about outright being a victim, a martyr for the sake of the gospel, the sign of a true believer is one that suffers persecution for the sake of the Lord. These are passages regarding Israel in that time of tribulation. And that is what Christianity has done. Because Christianity has largely rejected rightly dividing the word of truth, what they opt to do instead is apply all those passages, and therefore they're trying to make us live as believers today. They're trying to make us live as if we're in the tribulation, as if this is the course of things, that Satan has control, he's the Antichrist is carrying out his will. But I want to actually propose that that's not how the world is today. I know that we're taught that everything is all doom and gloom and hopeless. But I would tell you this, and I'm not a post-millennial, and I'm not necessarily an optimist. I'm an optimistic pessimist, all right? Or a pessimistic optimist, I guess, however you put it, because I think that things can absolutely get a whole lot worse. I would say in our age of grace, this time that you and I are living in, to a large degree, we're not going to be able to establish utopia on earth. That's not going to happen. The nature of men is to do what men want to do, and men are going to, there are going to be some men choose to go against God, reject Him, and there is going to be sin, wickedness, depravity on the earth until the kingdom comes. That's what the Bible tells us. Man cannot create utopia in a perfect world. But to a degree, in this age of grace, while Satan is not bringing about his one world order as the Antichrist right now. Now, I know we can talk about some matters. Are the pawns being put in place? Are things being situated? Are we gearing up for the last days? That's possible. I'm not telling you it's not. But what I am telling you is, in this age of grace, we have the gospel, we have the revelation of God, and really this world's going to kind of be what we make it, what we make of it. The society that you live in, if your society is failing,